Before we start, though, I need to ask Aaron to come back up here. Sorry, guy. It was just about a year ago, I got a heads up from a pastor in Fargo that a drummer might be coming our way. He didn't tell me he was going to be 8 feet tall. But Aaron was here doing an internship with Mercy Hospital on laboratory work, something way above just a lab tech. I don't even know what it's called, but it's way up. Whatever. Okay. And we tried to keep Aaron here, tried to get him a job here, but that didn't work out. Somebody in Fargo offered him a job, a hospital in Fargo. So at the end of this month, Aaron's going to be going to work there and paying those taxes that we rebelled to get away from. But anyway, Aaron plays quite a bit of music, plays in the church band up in Fargo at Fargo Faith, and also plays for the 188th Army Reserve Band as the lead drummer for there. So he's quite busy, and we hate losing him. We've enjoyed having you here big time, Aaron. Before you go, I don't know if you know this or not, but Aaron can really sell bread. The bread that we, you add a can of pop to it and everything. During the rummage sale, Aaron was in charge of selling bread and stumbled at first, but then he got an idea. He says, I think I'll help people carry their things out of here, and then I'll guilt them into buying the bread by saying, I'm helping you here. You guys are going to buy some bread, aren't you? So he sold quite a bit of bread, and all those funds went to our backpack program. So he didn't get a sample of that, so we're going to send that with you. Thank you. Aaron is a bachelor at this point, so he does all of his own cooking, and so I figured we need to get him an art cookbook, Arlene. So there you go. And then on a serious note, Aaron, we really, really have enjoyed having you here. We appreciate your dedication and everything you gave to us. Aaron gave his time truly, gave his talents big time, and also gave his treasures. So we appreciate that very much. Anyway, we want you to not forget us. So we have, I don't know if you ever wear a sport coat, but this lapel pin of United Methodist, cross and flame. And then we have quite appropriately, a gift certificate for Amazon. So nice. We thank you very much, Aaron, for all you've done for us. We really do appreciate it. Thank you. Good guy, good guy. They don't get any better than Aaron. Nickname Sticks, by the way. Well, I don't know if you've noticed or not, but, first of all, before I get into my message today, the worship design team wanted me, since we're in this barbecue series, wanted me to wear a barbecuing outfit, like shorts and t-shirt and what have you. So the first thing you learn in preacher school is never do anything that'll nauseate your congregation. So, I didn't want to show you my knees, Hal, so I didn't do that. But anyway, you may have noticed, but in recent years, there's been a real increase in the number of people that, want to decorate their bodies in some way. What used to be several years ago when choosing to decorate their bodies, it was usually somebody that was in the Navy, or perhaps somebody that was in other branches of the military, or maybe even merchant marines would decorate their body. And clearly I'm speaking of that practice known as the tattoo. Now, tattoos are also known as body art, bling, body bling, self-graffiti, walking billboards, and fashionable ink accessories. Tattoos have been around for over 5,000 years. It's nothing new. But the Egyptians used tattoos to differentiate the peasants from the slaves. And today, the tattoo has moved from just those in the military to people like you and me. Another difference that we see in the tattoo today is that they've gotten a lot bigger than what they used to be. Years ago, maybe you saw the forearm where a sailor might have an anchor tattooed on his arm. or a big burly guy with the word mother on his shoulder. But today, you not only see tattoos in black and blue, but you also see them full of color as well. And what used to be just the arm now covers the whole body in many cases. Now, today, you would call it trendy to have a tattoo. In the nightlife, tattoo artists are rapidly becoming a very popular career choice. That's true. And mark my words, sooner or later, we're going to see a leather-clad, tattooed-sleeved, multi-pierced guy named Rocky standing next to become a DJ booth at your kid's career fair. Before we get any further into this tattoo message and such, I want to go on the record to say that I absolutely find nothing wrong with tattoos. Tattoos are okay. Personally, I'll never get one, but that doesn't mean I don't appreciate it in others. I question sometimes when you see a young person with a brand new huge tattoo if he really understands the word permanent. A lot of times people can remove tattoos when they become tired of them. It's a very, very painful process, however, to take tattoo away. A question you might have is, why do some people get tattoos? What's the motivation behind it? People get tattoos for many reasons. They get it for attention, for self-expression, artistic freedom, and sometimes rebellion. It's a visual display of a personal narrative, something that they're trying to convey to other people. Reminders of a spiritual or cultural tradition that they have. It's identification with a group. And sometimes, you may not believe this or not, but sometimes it's due to a drunken impulsiveness that they had at one time, which is why many tattoo parlors are open very late at night. Now, according to some research studies, some 38% of the people today in the United States have some form of permanent body art. 38%, that's a significant number. What was once considered self-mutilatory behavior and a psychiatric problem has now become almost normal behavior. It's quite common to see tattoos. So now you may be asking yourself, what in the world do tattoos have to do with Goldilocks? The answer to that question is absolutely nothing. You see, tattoos mark a person. Tattoos are a mark of identification. Tattoos convey a message that the wearer wants others to see. They tell a story that oftentimes is misunderstood when it comes to interpreting a tattoo. Well, today's message is all about telling a story that is symbolized in our sermon series of the backyard barbecue. What can you do sometimes at a barbecue? What are some of the things you can do? You can visit with your neighbors. You can maybe help cook, although you never want to get in the way between a man and his grill. You know, a little work caution there. You can help cook. You can have fellowship with other people. And you can play yard games. Quite often, yard games are present at a backyard barbecue. Well, yard games are available at our barbecue this morning. You have many games available to you today, such as this beanbag toss. Oops, almost lost our grill. Gene, you can try your luck there. Go ahead. Not bad. I don't know the scoring system, but that is some sort of a point.
I'm left.
You're left-handed? You threw that with your right? Wow, that's good. Try it again. That was worse. I think you ought to change hands. I'm not very good at it either. There's other games such as what's called the ladder game, which is These things here that are strings that you can throw, that you have on a ladder, you throw them and you try to gain points by catching them on a ladder. I used to be pretty good at this, but nope, that I got on the side there. Then there's always the game of badminton. This is probably an enlarged version of badminton. It's the biggest birdie I've ever seen. But badminton was started many hundreds, almost 1,000 years ago, as a game to determine whether or how long you would live. So the longer you could keep the birdie in the air with your opponent, the longer you would live. And gradually it developed into a game. And there was a guy in England, he was actually a duke, who loved the game, just loved it. And so he played it every weekend, every chance he had with people that would come over, always played this game. Now he lived in this mansion, it was a huge mansion, and the mansion had a name. And the name of the mansion was badminton. So that's how the game of badminton got its name. I won't send that one into the crowd. Then there's croquet, of course. Many have seen the game of croquet. Many have played the game of croquet. It started out also as a way to determine the length of your life, and only one ball, so everybody would play with one ball. And it wasn't a mallet like this, it was actually a stick that was crooked. And the word for crooked stick is called crosse or something like that in French. And that gradually then turned into croquet, a game that we play in our backyard barbecue. So we have all kinds of things today that we can play with. All kinds of games that we can get involved in. They're available for every one of you, every one of us here today to play. Each one of us has the opportunity to get in the game. To get in the game. They're available for each of us to dive into and become totally immersed in the games this morning. And some of you will do that. Some of you will want to show others, because you're so competitive, you'll want to show others just how good you are. Some of you will not hold back. Some of you will want to be on the winning team, so you'll pick the best players. Some of you will only play to win. Some of you will take it upon yourselves to show others how to play because you're so good. Some of you will do your absolute best to win at whatever game you choose. Nothing will hold you back. And some of you will play your heart out. Now, on the other hand, some of you may be a little reluctant to become so involved in these games today. Some of you may want to sit back and just kind of let others play the game. Some of you may choose to be in the stands, choose to be an observer and not a player. Some of you might just volunteer to keep score and not play at all. Some of you may choose to be a referee and not a player. On the other hand, some of you will want to play, but may be concerned about overdoing it. You'll hold back a bit. Some of you will play, but not with all you have. Some of you may try to humble yourselves and not show others just how good you really are. Some of you might not want to get your clothes dirty. After all, it's a Sunday morning. So you'll hold back a bit. Which one are you going to be? They're all okay. They're all fine. But which one are you going to be? What are you going to be this morning? I, unfortunately, cannot predict which one you will be. I can't predict with any one of you. Actually, there's not one of you in here today that can predict how the other is going to play. We have no idea who among us will go all in and play as hard as you can. We don't have any idea of who among us will say, I'll hold back a bit. And we have no idea who among us will only want to keep score. If only each of you had some sort of marking to indicate what kind of a player you're going to be. If only you had a tattoo telling others what kind of a player you are. That would help a great deal if you only had some kind of marker. And that brings us to our Goldilocks discussion. Those of you that will only play a little, not go all out, just play enough to say that you were part of the game, are what is known as the Goldilocks group. Not too much or not too little, just the right amount of playing. Let me explain this further, and it's going to seem a little confusing at first, but let me explain this further as it relates to Christianity. Today's scripture that Bonnie read to us talks about how we obey certain rules, but those rules are from people, are from man, from memory. We know it by memory. They're not coming from above. So, as we compare this and use the metaphor of games, what kind of a Christian are you? Are you the kind of Christian that Jesus refers to in another piece of Scripture that's found in Revelations? Are you a cold Christian? Or are you a hot Christian? Or are you a lukewarm Christian? From Revelations 3, it says, Jesus is writing or has written to 7 churches. And these letters are being written down and copied actually by St. John, by John himself as he's writing Revelations. So this is one of the letters to one of the churches that Jesus wrote to. Jesus says, I know your deeds, that you are neither hot nor cold. I wish that you were one or the other. That's key to what we're looking at. Jesus says, I wish you were hot or I wish you were cold. So because you are lukewarm, neither hot nor cold, I am about to spit you out of my mouth. Now that's pretty harsh words. And it actually means that I'm nauseated by lukewarm. This church that he's talking to, I'm nauseated by it, so I will throw up. I'm so nauseated. So exactly what does a lukewarm Christian look like? Many of us have heard sermons or messages or read somewhere about a lukewarm Christian. A lukewarm Christian and what it looks like. Some of us have compared it to Goldilocks when you're lukewarm. But perhaps that's not quite accurate, and here's why. Lukewarm Christian is not what most people believe. This is, by the way, my interpretation of this particular letter that Jesus wrote. Like any other passage in the Bible, you can't take it out of context. You have to read surrounding scripture that goes with it in order to really understand it. What's the difference between hot and cold? What makes a person lukewarm? Is it just a blend of hot and cold? Is a hot Christian somebody that's on fire for the Lord and you can just, all they talk about is God? And a cold person is not quite that way, but very worldly, but does a few things as far as come to church and that sort of thing. Does that make him cold? And then a lukewarm is some kind of a blend of the two? The next verse tells us specifically. You see, it starts with because. And so we won't miss that it's connected. Jesus says because. And here's why Jesus gets nauseated with lukewarm Christians in this particular church. He says, because you say, I am rich and have become wealthy. I have need of nothing. And you do not know that you are wretched and miserable and poor and blind and naked. The lukewarm people that Jesus is criticizing here think that they have it all together. Lukewarm people that he's writing about here believe that they're on the right track. They think they are rich when they're very poor. They think they can see when actually they're blind, and they think they need nothing when they are on the streets without anything. They have the worst of both worlds. All the smugness that the uppity people have, the self-righteous people have, and all the poverty that goes against it. Here's the key. They need help. Lukewarm Christians need help, but they don't know it. They're not aware of what they need. They think they have it all together. This makes the rest of Jesus' metaphor perfectly clear. Lukewarm means something bland and tepid. Now, just as a side comment about the word tepid, we had friends that were neighbors of ours at one point, and the mother got a prescription from the doctor, and when she got the prescription home, the instructions were, mix this particular powder, this medicine, with tepid water. She went to 12 pharmacies trying to find tepid water, not knowing what it was. Then she realized, or somebody finally told her, tepid meant just lukewarm water. The church combined feelings of passion for the Lord, which is hot, with the condition of being apart from the Lord, which is cold. The result in Jesus' mind is horrible. People in a spiritual need who can't recognize it because they think they've got it all together. They think they're doing great. Lukewarm means self-righteous. It's not a blend of both cold and hot. It means self-righteous. A lukewarm Christian is not somebody who claims to follow Jesus, but also does worldly things. It's somebody who says, I don't do worldly things, therefore I'm following the will of God. A lukewarm Christian is not somebody who claims to follow Jesus, but only shows up on Sundays. It's somebody who says, God must be pleased with me because I go to church. Lukewarm Christians are very satisfied in themselves. Lukewarm Christians are proud of their spiritual commitment and pleased with all that they do for the Lord. Lukewarm Christians believe that they are living the right way, with all the right values and all the right methods and all the right works. Except they're not. The fact is that lukewarm Christians or self-righteous people nauseates the Lord. It matches what Jesus said about people who won't make it into heaven in Matthew. In Matthew 7, Jesus said, many will say to me on that day, Lord, Lord, did we not prophesy in your name? And in your name cast out demons? And in your name perform many miracles? And then I will declare to them, I never knew you. Depart from me, you who practice lawlessness. In other words, people who practice and follow the law and not realize that Christ came to fulfill the law. That they don't need to follow the law. They need to believe in Jesus and confess to Him. These people did great works for the Lord and thought well of themselves, but they missed their need for the Lord Himself. Jesus said, only one thing is needful. And only one thing is needed, and that is called faith. That may explain why Jesus says, I wish you were hot or cold. If it actually meant a cold Christian was an atheist, for example, or not a cold Christian, but a cold person was atheist, why would Jesus say, I wish you were either hot or cold? He said, I wish you would be one or the other instead of lukewarm. And the reason for that is that cold people, in this definition, understand that they are at the bottom, understand that they are in need of God, understand that they're not able to do it themselves. They haven't completely surrendered, but they recognize that fact. In Jesus' mind, that's the definition of cold. So it's okay to be cold because you recognize the fact that you are in need. Being cold is just as good as being hot from the salvation standpoint. Because in both cases, you're seeing that you have a need, insufficiency and helplessness, and coming to depend on Jesus for His grace, His forgiveness, and His righteousness. The one fatal condition is to be needy while depending on your own resources. In Jesus' mind, in this letter to people in this church, that was disgusting. That is lukewarm. Now we know the difference among the three types of Christians and the three types of game players. A hot player is a Christian who is all in. A cold player is out, and he knows he's out, looking up, wishing he was a player, wishing he were a player, playing like the hot player. A Goldilocks player is lukewarm, and he plays as though he's playing all out and abiding by all the rules. He thinks he should be named the greatest player because he is relying on his own interpretation of the rules, when he is merely coasting through the game. So which player are you? In most cases, I can't tell. Sadly, I can't tell which kind of a player I am when I look in the mirror. If we only had a mark, if there only were a tattoo that we could have that would tell us what type of player we are and which type or team are we going to play on. If there were a tattoo that could point out who among us is the hot player. Actually, there is. You see, a hot player has the mark of pure joy and peace of God written all over them. A hot player is the first to admit that they're a sinner. A hot player is the first to defer to their humility before God. They are the ones who love God more than anything and always put Him first. They are the ones that we talked about last week that John Wesley described as on their way to perfection. They are the ones that are very few in numbers, and they are the ones that are most Christ-like. We can become who they are. Just follow Christ and proudly wear the tattoo of a God lover. By your behavior, show the world how to love. Amen. We could have our ushers come forward, please.